jacket for Christmas. Wow, that is exciting. Did you get a pair of socks and a tie to go along with it?
Nice warm indoor wear, Mark.
Gotta
Indoor
love it.
wear, because I'm living in an old house and it's drafty even inside. And we have a cold spell up here in the Northeast. But it's funny,
Gotta
off
love
camera,
it.
you're asking no one got me. Didn't no one got me a one of those circle lights so that I'd look better here on the podcast? That's because no one in my circle watches the podcast.
Oh Lord. Oh Lord. We've got to fix that.
Speaking of
We
silos,
have got to
speaking of
fix that.
silos, it's hard to get white people, even the ones closest to you, to want to hear conversations that get to be about black and white. Because, and I've thought about it, it's like we've had this politeness, social contract, self monitoring society, right? Where in especially white society, we're like, oh, don't talk about racism. Why do you gotta talk about racism? Why does everything have to be about race? Blah 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 blah. Which is only
Hmm.
served to squelch the discussion. Because like almost impolite as a topic in white America to talk about. It's an
Yep.
inconvenient topic to talk about, so you're dissuaded from ever talking about it and bringing it up. And it's all a part of why we've never had the racial reckoning that we discuss so much on our discussions, that is so required for us
Well,
to move forward.
yeah, there aren't a lot of white people out there that actually own slaves right now. So why should we talk about it? Right? No one you know owned any slaves. I mean, but if we stop to think about it, right? My grandparents were descendants of slaves. Okay? My grandparents came from, or their families, their parents were slaves. So we're only two generations removed, right? That there is still a remaining survivor of the massacre on Black Wall Street in Tulsa, who got nothing in court just about a year ago. Her court case was finally adjudicated and got nothing. That was the massacre in Tulsa that we don't teach in the history books, that we don't talk about, right? Because history is written by the victor, right? By the winner. So it gets whitewashed here in the US.
So,
So,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, so that leads us, down this slippery slope, um, where Black Americans are only good to white Americans based on what they can do for them, i.e., the SEC football conference, right? We didn't get black players in the SEC football conference until Bear Bryant got his ass kicked by Sam Bam Cunningham and the USC fighting Trojans, right? We still can count the number of African American coaches that have coached in the SEC on one hand, right? And yet the SEC annually gets the best African American talent the entire country has to
Hmm.
offer.
Hmm. At least now, maybe they're starting to get some dollars that come with it. But
Right.
it's just interesting the way we have this self censorship and and monitoring of what we talk about. What I'm trying to get through to other white people in my discussions is either take it one of two ways. Either I'll give you the okay, you're not racist, or come with me the other direction and just acknowledge that we're all kind of racist. Call it tribal instead of racist. In America, it's racism because it's a power dynamic. But let's say all people in the world are tribal and sort of fearful and wary of the others. And Star Trek has episode after episode on things like this, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
okay, go either of those directions. So it's depersonalized. You don't have to take it personal that you're being called a racist and get all defensive. And move it from the personal to just the organizational, and analyze the societal racism and
Right.
pull yourself out of it and just look at it as, well, what does society do? Or can you argue that society is not racist? Can you argue that society hasn't built policies and programs and allocated dollars in a way, maybe you can just use the term unfair then if you're uncomfortable with racist, and look at it as more of a third person, or look at it as like a country you didn't live in, and like
Yeah.
just analyze it that, just so it can divorce people from their emotions and get people to think analytically and just get away from the defensive shield that goes up every time you bring up race, because it's even worse. You don't get it if you talk about like LGBTQ rights.
Right.
Generally, like a white person
Right.
won't get all up in arms about it. Maybe religious people do because they say,
Yeah,
the
religious
book is
zealots.
telling them one thing or another. But if you're not in that camp, you're kind of like, well, yeah, that. Why shouldn't you be able to marry? Why shouldn't you be able to live a certain way? Why shouldn't you have the same freedoms? Yeah, well, it's pretty easy to get to that. Oh, yeah, that was unfair when you weren't allowed to be on your partner's health insurance because the country didn't acknowledge that you were married in the same way. So, in essence, your relationship was inferior to other
Right.
relationships. So, that's not fair. Why should like, so we made those changes.
Right.
And
But Brock, it's interesting too because we are the ones who will try to play the moral police around the world, right? Remember, we're 80s babies. So remember the boycotts of Shell and Reebok in the mid to late 80s there because of apartheid and their investments in South Africa,
yeah, when we were in
right? We were the
college, it was
ones
a big
telling
thing.
South Africa that
Yeah,
apartheid was wrong. It was wrong.
those boycotts worked.
Yes, they did. But here was the thing about South Africa, and this is why you need to go if you haven't been already. And I would say this to anyone. When apartheid fell and collapsed, there was no system in place to help the black South Africans become a part of the economic engine that drove South Africa. So they're still impoverished.
Yeah, there's
They're
still
still,
none of the money.
yeah,
The
living in
economics didn't change.
shanties.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
nothing
mean, maybe it
changed.
takes a while to, maybe over time that they will get, they can make those changes now that they have political power. But getting back to the policemen of the world, I mean, just think about also even the Iraq War, right? We all
Oh
knew it was the wrong,
yeah,
right? Once we finally admitted it was the wrong country, then it was just all about, well, he was, Hussein was a terrible leader anyway, and this is in the best interest of the Iraqi people. They won't be
right.
terrorized and subjugated by their own leader anymore, which, I guess is kind of what we're using in Venezuela now, right? I mean, we can use that for toppling anyone and inserting ourselves into any country as with our quote moral authority that
Right.
we're going to make life better for the people. Yeah, we've done it. We've done it our whole, yeah.
Yep.
International politics has been doing that our entire lives.
Yep. But take a look at the US, right? Like 55% of black America lives in the South, right? The old South, which is pretty much still the old South,
Like 10
right?
states,
Like
12 states maybe, or
yeah,
15 states?
exactly.
Yeah.
And based on your zip code in Southern Black America, we can pretty much guarantee what your outcome is going to be when you're born. You know, certain zip codes, you don't have a shot. And then I think it gets exponentially worse as you move up north because of the cost of living, because of the cost of education, because of the cost of getting into a zip code, that doesn't allow you and your child to prosper.
Mhm.
Look, I see the Boston Globe article just a few years ago where black Bostonians in Metro Boston had a net worth
Mhm.
of $8, which is not even a dozen Dunkin' Donuts.
It's
You
interesting
can't
because
you can't get a dozen donuts at Dunkin' Donuts for $8.
maybe my white East Coast liberal mind just has me convinced that it's still better to be a black person in the Northeast because so many of the people around you won't be overtly and openly biased against you. I know others would argue that
As of
the
when?
subtle bias gets you to the same place and maybe worse, and that you'd rather know who hates you versus the Northeast, type of racist or just person that, thinks they're not and is still screwing you. So I get, yeah, I mean, I got to examine my, I got to
Well,
examine my thinking on this one.
yeah, maybe that exists now. I didn't have a prom date for our senior prom. Did you go to my senior prom?
No.
No. Okay, yeah. I didn't have a prom date for my senior prom. I was a year ahead of you. I had to go to the town of Peekskill, city of Peekskill, to find a date, right? Because the young lady that I wanted to go with, her parents said, we don't play that. So I don't know if that's considered overt or if that is, or let's go to Wall Bomb. Same week, as a matter of fact, as the senior prom. I was looking for a summer job. Went up to the Wall Bombs up there off Route 6, right across from Isadora's. Remember the Shake Your Booty spot that used to be real
Absolutely.
popular?
Absolutely.
I went to Wall Bombs. And a friend of ours worked there, said they were looking for two people, me and another guy went up there. I said, hey, friend, I've never seen African Americans working in this store. Why don't you let me go in first? They said there's two jobs, so we're both going to get hired anyway. He says, yeah, sure, why not? I go in, they tell me there's no jobs available. I said, why don't we circle back, get breakfast, and then you can come back and go in and, get the jobs that they say are available. We go back, he's hired on the spot. I go back in and I confront, the manager. He says, it's not me, I'm just doing what I'm told.
Like an ICE agent, right?
Yep,
Never
yep.
changes.
That was
Never changes.
1983.
But I actually thought about shit because we're doing this podcast. I think about our upbringing a little bit, and I get to thinking about sports and all the teams that we played, and some of them that we hated. But how siloed even Northern Westchester was. Like
Oh,
we were
yeah.
the only team that had mixed race. Either you
Yes.
played a white team
Or a black
or a
team.
black team, right?
Yep.
And that was it. That we were the only mixed race team on the schedule. I mean,
Yeah.
I look back and I think about how I think today in the world, and I'm like so thankful. Like, and it was only what? 10% black? Did we do the math, right? Did we
It was
determine it was
12.
maybe 10% black, 8% of a
If
class?
that.
If that, maybe 5%. And I think we decided it may have been 5% Jewish,
Right.
because I think I had 15 Jews out of 250 or something like that
Right.
in my class because we all knew who all the Jews were. At least it was some, right? It wasn't zero, you know?
Right.
And the fact that it
Right.
wasn't zero, it may be because, we all played basketball. Maybe I, whatever, got a little more immersed in it than most people who is intermingling or sports in general, right?
Hmm.
'Cause you had the similar on the football team. Yeah, I don't know. It was a benefit, right? Because you're actually exposed to another culture. And I was thinking even further for anyone listening who's ever been on a sports team or anything in a play, in a band, right? When you're the younger, because Mark's a year older than me, and you're the younger person on a team. And I was thinking about
Yep.
going from JV to varsity, and you guys were seniors, right? So now I'm first time playing varsity. It's the seniors that set the tone. It's the
Yep.
seniors that decide what music is being listened to in the locker room and on the bus, right? Not the
Right.
newbies. The next year,
Right.
you get to decide. When you're a senior, you get to decide, right? And I
Right.
was thinking back, like, were you a team captain? Was Ricky Shelton the captain?
Yeah, Rick was.
Rick was. I wasn't this. So
Yeah.
I've been on teams where the black guy was the captain of the team. Right, I was
Yeah.
no team leader because I happened to be a white guy coming up through the
Right.
system. Right, I was a younger guy fighting for a spot, and just the way sports. But anyway, I think you can get the point of having that exposure in life. I think
Yes.
carries with you the rest of your life because I mean, if you've been around black excellence, if you've been on a team where the black guy was the captain, and then
Right.
culturally, if you've been on a team where the black guys decided the music that you listened to on the bus, you got exposed to a lot of different shit in your life.
No
And then when you
doubt.
become friends, it carries exponentially to outside just those moments. But not enough America gets that because we're so siloed.
Right. But look at you mentioned black excellence. Look at what Rick was able to do with his life.
Yeah.
Rick Shelton, right? Pediatrician, med school. Um, you know, I mean, he was accepted to Harvard, Yale, Princeton, WashU. I mean, we could argue he was one of the top scholars in the building. He was one of the top, kids in our class. Um, and still, the week he was studying for the MCATs, he was accused of stealing from Caldor. Had two police cars in front of his
Unfucking
house, New
believable.
York State troopers, while he's studying for the MCAT.
I know. Probably the most honest of our whole bunch, right? Because
Exactly.
God knows I
Exactly.
shoplifted in my day. I'm sure you did some shit, but like he was the straightest arrow of all of
Oh,
us.
all
But
day long.
once you've been around, whatever, you're just okay. So I was around a black guy, Chris Shetton, who was smarter than me. Well, how could I go through the rest of my life thinking that I'm smarter than all black people? It actually started younger because when I was like a freshman or maybe eighth grade, Barry Ford was the valedictorian, right? So
That's
like
the
our
man.
school already had a black valedictorian. So
Right.
even coming through, why would I think as I stepped into high school that all of a sudden I was smarter than the black people around me? It wasn't true, and it was proven out by the numbers, right? Just
But Brock, it didn't make you feel bad about who you were.
no.
And
It
that's
just
and that's the thing. Like, who's the famous racist that always said, as long as you can make, the poorest, white man feel like he's better than the best black man, will always be in power. I
yeah.
forget what the
I
what
don't
the
know, but
quote.
James Baldwin uses that quote frequently.
Yes.
I
Yes.
see him use that quote. I don't know who said it originally, but and then you could also pick his pocket. I think is also a part
Right.
of it as
Right.
well. But yeah, I mean,
Right.
anyway, talking about it, I think helps, and putting the taboo on it as a conversation, you know, it to me has been a tactic, right?
Right.
That's like a power strategy and tactic because you're
Right.
maintaining a certain status quo when you don't allow for the discussion. Because when people talk about things, no matter the topic, you learn from hearing. It
Right.
challenges your own beliefs. But if it's never discussed, no one ever learns and no one ever changes, and it just rolls along
Right.
down the same path. That's why I'm so committed to like talking about it, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and
Right.
even maybe where we disagree.
Right.
Because I still don't know where I am on reparations, hardcore dollar reparations. I should just
Well,
be on cut checks, right? But like, you know,
well,
I
think
always
about it, Brock. Well, and I'll ask you why.
I don't
How
know.
much?
I'm wondering. I don't know why that's been kind of a sticking point in my head, of like because that's. I mean, everything boils down to dollars in the end, in a lot of ways, in terms of quality of life. That why I wouldn't put a price tag on it, and
But
cut
here's the
checks.
thing.
We cut checks for so much other shit.
I was gonna say we're giving farmers what 12 billion. How much did we give out in PPP money? How much did
I
we
don't know.
give
It was
out?
a lot.
Everybody was taking out PPP loans, Brock. Everybody. And we just wrote checks ad nausea as if there was an endless stream of money. That's when I got pissed and said, oh no, fuck that. There's money for reparations. We got money for all these bailouts of all these fucking banks, right? Remember, we bailed out all
Oh
the
my
the,
God.
the, the home loan
Yeah,
industry,
close to
right?
trillion.
Savings and
Yeah.
loan fucking collapse, right? We've been bailing motherfuckers out for decades. And you mean to tell, there's only 40 million of us. There's only 40 million black folks in America right now. What are we, 13% of the population? And ain't that many when you look at 340 million people, right? But we're the only ones who can't get over the hump when it comes to lending, when it comes to mortgage rates, when it comes to all the things that allow you to acquire wealth. The system puts its foot on our neck, right? Again, we ain't been lazy since we stopped working for free, right? But there's an impediment at every turn when it comes to acquiring wealth. People were up in arms about the family that got the Newport Beach land in California back, right? What was it, like 20, $22 million worth of property that had been taken from an African American family and was given back last year, right? Read the stories about that and look at the comments.
I know the comments. Yeah. No, it gets me to thinking
Comments.
about like when art is it's always a big story, more of a European story when art is like given back to very often Jewish families who had it stolen from them by the Nazis.
Right.
And then it
Right.
ends up in a museum, right, somewhere. It's been sitting in a museum for 50 years as if it was part of the treasure trove of the government when really
Yes.
it was stolen from people that you gas chambered, right? So the
Yep.
family, goes to court, has sued, and a lot of them have kind of won back
Run
the
back
art,
the art.
and
Yep.
or they've gotten reparations for it. In essence, they've gotten paid for it.
We paid the Japanese for their being inconvenienced and being put in internment camps, right? We paid everyone, right, who felt they had a grievance against the United States, right? People come here, they're able to get small business loans. Why do you think that there are so many Asian um, owned restaurants and businesses and hair supply stores in black neighborhoods, right? Look up Latasha Harlins in Los
Yeah,
Angeles.
yeah, yeah. I remember you telling the story. Yeah.
One,
Right,
one
the Asian-
one of the flashpoints of the hate between the Asian community and the black community. But the hate is not for the Asians, right? The hate is for the system,
system.
that allows Asians
Yeah,
to
see, you can't
prosper.
personalize it to that family that
Right.
got the loan and is busting their ass to like try to make a small business work, right? They're
Right.
not the enemy. Maybe sometimes they're seen that way because they're the representative on the ground in the moment, but like that's not.
Right.
That gets back to what I said earlier about talking about systems, not individuals. And let's talk, we can depersonalize things. Not that they should need to be, but if that makes it easier, I just want to get to a better end game,
Right.
and talk about how to break down systems.
Yeah. And now, here's the problem with breaking down the systems. There's a lot of people out here making a lot of money. Prison industrial complex, right? The housing market, right? Because black people are constantly being put in subprime loans. And there was supposed
Yep.
to be, you know,
Yeah,
guardrails against it, but they still exist.
yeah, they pulled that down.
Yeah,
they-
they
and
still
then
exist.
Trump has rolled back any protections that were even
Any
there in any way,
possibility of
shape, or form. Yeah.
Right. So, we can't sit here, and have a guy in the Oval Office still talking about you people.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
Right.
people.
I mean,
2025, 2026, we're celebrating, right? I think it's the 250 years because they're dropping the
Right.
they're dropping the ball, two balls in Times Square on New Year's Eve because I guess they're dropping a second one to commemorate the 250 years. I mean, after 250 years, we're still talking, us and them and you versus,
Yep. Yep.
and every white person pretends like that, they were, they founded the country, right? Well,
Right.
by the way, Native Americans were fucking here. So landing a boat in the wrong place and calling it the wrong name, not exactly Discovery, but
Mm.
it's like there's just a sense like we've been running shit since the get-go, which, oh, by the way, there was a get-go of like centuries before we got here.
Prior to, right.
But we built it into the ethos, and it's become the way of doing things.
Right.
It's kind of funny. All right, this may just you may not follow this one, but I was talking about the podcast also with some family members about like, oh, do you rant every day? It's like I don't want to call it a rant. We don't rant. We have a discussion. It may get heated at times, but it's a discussion, and how we're always encourage how black and white people we've always talked about we can talk sports and entertainment, right, really
Right.
easily, but we get
Right.
outside of those realms and then the discussion doesn't happen. Whoa, flag gets thrown. Hey, you're talking
Hit
about
the
politics.
brakes.
And how often, even if you talk about race in in sports, you're told to shut up and just talk about the team. And I said, but no. I was trying to explain this to someone. Like, have you ever seen the movie Devil Wears Prada?
No, no, but I know of it.
I heard it. Meryl Streep plays like the Anna
Meryl
Wintour
Streep,
character,
yes.
and Anne Hathaway plays like the young intern who says like, "Oh, I'm just wearing this green sweater," and the Meryl Streep character goes, "No, that came from a runway show here that then became a knockoff here, and this, and it ended up in the bargain basement bin that you pulled it out of. So you didn't pick that shirt. That shirt was chosen for you." And I was explaining to the person saying, just like you can't just talk about who the quarterback is on Sunday.
Right.
Because that quarterback on Sunday was chosen 20 years ago as a 5-year-old when the white kid was told, oh, okay, you can be the quarterback. Hey, black kid, no, get out. You got to play running back.
Right.
Because the white coach was like, oh, that black kid can't be the leader. It can't be,
Right.
isn't smart enough to play quarterback. So 20 years later, a sports decision is being made that was made by society way
that.
back. Now that's diminished over the decades, over our lifetime, right? And in
Right.
that respect,
Right.
that's been a success of even the most racist NFL fans now. Live with the fact that their local team has a black quarterback, right? CJ Stroud down in Houston, right?
Killing it.
Killing it,
Going
right?
to the
Like all
playoffs.
these teams, you can even go in the deep south. The Tennessee Titans, right? Drafted a black quarterback. The Carolina
Number
Panthers
one.
have a black quarterback, right? So the fans who, as soon as they pull out of that parking lot, right, put their
Right.
Nazi stickers back on and their Trump flags back on, and basically use the N word if someone like cuts them off in the parking lot, right? But for that 3 hours in the stadium, they were okay with that black quarterback as long as they win.
Sure.
As long as
Sure.
they're winning games, they'll win games with anyone.
Yeah, and that's the thing, why is that so important? But yet the dignity of those playing the game doesn't matter. Because they don't vote with their NFL allegiance, right? They don't vote for, who's one of our superstars, Cam Ward, let's say in Tennessee,
Or Caleb
right?
Williams now. The Bears won the division.
Right. People are not voting, right, for him to have a better life and his family,
Yeah, not at all.
right? They're voting against, his family being able to, grasp the American dream. Well, what did Eddie Murphy say? Yeah, he's not an N-word. He's famous. He's funny. He's a comedian. I mean, and that's why I've got to watch the Dave Chappelle show right now because he's like going all in on everybody, and in his latest stand-up, and he pulls no punches. So I'm anxious to see his new stand-up to see what he has to say, because the best comedians really poke fun at the racist society that we are. And and I love the cutaway shots of the white folks in the audience, right? Because they came to laugh too,
Yeah. The nervous
right? And they
laughter.
realize they have to
Nervous
laugh at
laughter, like,
themselves
oh,
during
shit.
certain portions of the
Yeah.
show,
Like, oh shit, that's me.
right? Right. So I
But
don't know where
I
we
think
go
I
from
think the
here, Brock.
quarterback argument goes back to I think that those white fans can easily say, well, what can that black quarterback do for me and win for
Exactly.
me? Because it's
Right.
my team. He just gets to be quarterback for
Right.
a while, but it's my team. Like they probably are able to flip it over and intellectualize it. Um,
In that
in
regard.
a
Yeah.
certain way that just bifurcates it in their mind. It's not necessarily a
Right.
black person. It's just that quarterback who, works for
Well,
them.
well, we know that racism requires you to, engage in a certain, uh, mental gymnastics, um, in order to make it fit the narrative. Um, because when it doesn't, fit like common sense, right? Like, I mean, people will argue that President Obama was the worst thing that ever happened to
Okay,
America.
I'm glad you just went there because I was waiting. I was about to jump in on this. How
You know,
how
the
I mean
worst thing.
I'm watching these clips, right? And I guess millions of people are going to just drop healthcare altogether. So
Yep.
how are these white people going to sit there and go, the black president made it so I could have health care and sleep at night and not live with this anxiety that I hope nothing bad happens to me or my family. And this old racist white guy is basically taking it away from me and making me have to be forced economically to cancel my health care and hope my 5 and 8-year-old kids never get sick. How explain to me the gymnastics that's going to go on there.
Yeah. Well, the black guy wore the tan suit and had zero members of his cabinet indicted, has two children by the same wife, um, no scandals.
Goes
But
to
was the worst
goes to
thing?
church, which many of them like, right?
Yes.
I don't
Yeah,
care, but a lot
apparently
of them
not.
like that. Yeah, a lot of them that's
But
important.
apparently not. Is educated, um, at Ivy League schools. Matter of fact, he attended school with our former valedictorian, Barry Ford. They were in the same law class,
Oh, didn't know.
along with Hill Harper. That was a phenomenal African American class, I would argue. Um, so I don't understand how the guy who wants you to live a longer life, to wants you and your family to be healthy, who wants you to be able to have the security blanket that health insurance affords in this country, unlike many other industrialized nations, why he's the worst thing that ever happened to America. I don't understand it. But we know that, I mean, remember what many racist white folks used to say? Oh, I don't have Obamacare. I got the ACA. What? You do have Obamacare,
Yeah.
fella.
I think they all know now. I think a
Oh yeah, they
decade
know
later, now it's
now.
being taken away. Now that
Yep.
now that they had to actually spend a few minutes on it and
Right.
and figure out what they had and what they're going to have to give up, they've sort of learned a little too late. But yeah,
Hello.
it's a tricky one. I don't know how you reconcile the fact that Trump and his oligarchs have enough money to keep hiring ICE agents and build detention facilities and run around the country and round up brown people. And there seems to be an endless, bottomless pit to the budget for ICE agents. But
Yes.
we don't have the money for the ACA subsidies. We absolutely can't afford it. We could give Argentina 20 million, but absolutely can't afford these subsidies so that these tens of millions of people can afford their health care.
$50,000 signing bonuses for ICE agents, Brock. $50,000 for writing your name on the line and spelling it correctly. I assume you have to spell your name correctly for these signing bonuses because you don't need any other qualifications from what we've heard. And once we get an honest press back, or maybe an independent press will dive into exactly who these ICE agents are, because we've heard that many of them were Oath Keepers and Proud Boys who were arrested on January 6th
Yeah.
and then pardoned by His Highness the King. So, again, what we are witnessing now is another failed policy decision by this inept cabinet that will see the healthcare industry destroyed. And what's their big money maker? Their drug prescriptions, right? Who's going to stop getting prescriptions? Those people who no longer have insurance because you can't pay out of pocket for monthly medication. I've got 6 or 7 medications right now that I know if I had to just pay out of pocket, I would not be able to afford. I'd be sitting here suffering in silence until my last day, until I close my eyes, because it's
Yeah.
just not possible.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
th-
we'll be
there are
talking. Yeah, we'll be
inhalers.
talking a lot of healthcare over the next couple of weeks because, I
Sure.
mean, the rubber's hitting the road for some people on Jan 2nd who didn't
Yep.
sign up, re-up on December 15th, and there's others who I think have to decide by January 15th. But they
Yep.
already know what the decision is. Like, they have to drop it
Exactly.
because
Yeah.
they can't afford it. It's like the decision's been made for them by the government. The government has said, in essence, we're kicking you off
Yep.
the healthcare
Yep.
rolls.
Yeah.
So your quality
And
of life is going down, and I hope you don't get sick.
but how does the government win with this policy decision? Because it appears to me, Brock, that this decision will cause bankruptcies. It will cause people to not pay their medical bills. So people are going to end up using the emergency room as a primary
Primary care, yeah.
primary care physician, right?
I think it's
And
going to
then,
backfire. I see how it doesn't touch the oligarchs, so they don't care, right? They can private
right,
pay anything, and if you're wealthy enough, it like doesn't matter. But there needs to be some system underneath you. I think it's going to backfire. I think it's a Project 2025 fumble, but
oh, no
it
doubt,
almost like has to collapse. You know how America is, right? Until it affects everyone directly, they won't do shit till it affects them
right,
directly. So it's almost like we're going to have to rebuild it from the rubble because it's going to collapse.
yep. And that's going to be a painful rebuild,
Oh,
right?
God.
Because the insurance companies are going to take one. The healthcare industry as a whole will have to be reimagined, right? And we don't have people smart enough to engage in that kind of reimagination in this cabinet right now.
Not at all. No, it's
We
going
don't
to
have
take like
anybody near the amount of brain
not even
cells
close.
needed.
Imagine Kennedy being involved in this. Come on.
That's what I'm saying, bro. That's exactly what I'm saying.
All right.
You know? So, and here we are, what, 5 days away?
Yeah.
5 days away. 4 days? What's today? The 28th?
Yeah, really, it's by Friday, right? January 1st.
Yeah.
I mean, you wrap around the weekend, yeah, people just be off the healthcare rolls.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this will segue me into a quick hit, especially at a time of the year when COVID's still out there, but there's a lot of extremely aggressive flus out there.
Right.
One of which has decimated the aforementioned Chicago Bears that have put a
Mm,
whole bunch of their players on injured reserve because they can't make it
that's
to the next
difficult.
game because they have such illness running through the locker room. So what are they doing? They're wearing fucking masks. Oh, they're wearing
Oh,
masks. What do you know? They want to win football games, so they're going to wear
hmm.
masks so more of the players don't get sick.
Right.
Oh, but in our
Right.
Kennedy anti-vax world, wearing masks is being a wimp, right? So
Yes.
what do the Bears think they're doing? These big tough football players wearing masks so that they don't get flu from their teammates because like half
Right.
of them have already gotten it. The hypocrisy of the mask wearing.
Right. And who's going to call some of these guys wimps?
No,
Nobody I
all
know.
those fans are probably like, "Hey, everybody, mask up. We need you on Sunday, right?"
Right, right, right. What are you doing? Get your mask off and, stop coughing in the huddle. You know, do you have to breathe?
So that was my
Um,
that was my one. There's a ton. So there's a lot of really aggressive flus going around the country at the exact time that people are going to be kicked off their
right.
healthcare roles. That's number one. The Bears happen to be an example.
And don't
So
forget, the flu kills. The flu does kill the elderly, those with pre-existing conditions. I mentioned um, uh, um, being able to pay for these things out of pocket. I remember having to pay for an inhaler one time. It was like 300 and something dollars.
Mark, you drop your insurance, you lose your doctor, then you're going to have to be in the emergency room. You know, people will try to ride it out because they're not going to not want to have to pay
Yeah,
that bill or any bill,
right,
and some of them aren't going to be able to.
right. I mean, it's literally insane, bro.
Wealthiest nation in the world, right?
Yeah.
Most powerful nation in the
Um,
world, and this is the shit that the people have to talk about and decisions they have to make day to day. What do you got for me?
I just don't know, where we're headed as a country in 2026. Um, but what I do know is that, again, you know, the Epstein files, have got to come out. And the fact that, we're still bouncing around trying to find a million two files, right? That the Justice Department supposedly hasn't even looked at. 1.2 million files. Now you tell me, Brock, how they knew they were supposed to let these things out on what, December 19th? 11 days ago? What was it, 10 days ago? And they still haven't reviewed 1.2 million files? See, I told you this was going to bring down the Trump cabinet, the clown car, right? This was going to wreck the clown car. And that's why we're not seeing them. That's why we won't see them, because there's nobody to enforce the law, right? Because the law itself says, we don't want to play with you. So meanwhile, we'll continue bringing bogus cases against Letitia James and Fannie Willis. By the way, our next episode, we need to get into the Fannie Willis testimony, where they dragged her into a hearing that was allegedly supposed to be about making laws to keep our free and fair elections safe. It turned into a grilling of Fannie Lewis, which Fannie Willis rather, which many Republicans will regret for
Okay,
trying
yeah,
to
you
get.
got to clue me into that. I'm not up on that story.
Oh yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. But 1.2 million files have not been reviewed yet by the Department of Justice, and apparently it's not the Department of Justice anymore. It's the Department of Corruption,
Yeah,
and
the cover up.
yeah, and the Department of Cover Up.
Well, we're gonna have to get fed up and hit the streets because
Yes,
they're
sir.
not gonna hand it to us.
Well, that's definitely coming in 2026 with the cancellation of the elections that are supposed to take place in 2026 for the midterms.
We gotta
You
get it
heard
out
it
there
here.
well before that.
Yes,
Well
sir.
before that. All right, Mark. Always a pleasure.
Yes, sir.
Enjoy
We will
your
see you.
Sunday afternoon.
See you mañana.
Okay. Take
All
care.
right, my friend. Have a great day. Peace. Trying to hit the stop button here. Doesn't want to stop for me.
We can keep going. Let's get into that, Fannie Willis. I got a good documentary for you too. I'll save that for the next quick hit.
Oh, okay. Hold on a sec. Yeah, so Fannie Willis was called into some sort of hearing here in Georgia. Hey, Val.
Hey,
Hey, we're still rolling. We got to edit this now.
no, you said this is the after show. I know that. I'll be back in a bit, hon. Real
Okay.
quick.
Yeah, she got sucked into this so-called hearing at the state capitol, and she was accompanied by her attorney Roy Barnes, former governor of Georgia. And wow, man, she got in their hind parts like a bicycle with the seat off. She let them have it. And I mean, she didn't pull any punches. And they were asking her questions like, why did you look for attorneys to work on your staff um, that you thought would be interested in prosecuting the president and his merry men? And Fonnie Willis was like, wait a minute. We didn't find out the president committed a crime until after I had been, put into the office, right? And after I'd been sworn in, I started looking for talent as soon as I won the election. So how would I have known? Factually, it doesn't make any sense that I could have been looking for people to prosecute the president, right? When I didn't know he had committed a crime. So what are you talking about? I mean, it was that farcical. And there was a bunch more fireworks where she just, and the Democrats on the committee, were setting her up with softballs that she could knock out of the park, just to, make these people look as ridiculous as possible.
Yeah, I'm not sure they
You know,
wanted to give her that forum, but
oh, exactly. They thought they were going to
beat her up. They thought they were going to beat her up.
absolutely. And I don't know why they would have thought that. They've already seen her on the stand before. When they came up with that trumped up case about the relationship she had with another attorney
Yeah,
who had a thriving law practice, who she brought on as a special prosecutor, which was all flim flam. She hasn't lived in her house, Brock. She hasn't lived in her home since that whole debacle began. Neither has I don't believe Brad Raffensperger has either. I think he's moved several times.
Fucking unbelievable. But that's the
And so has his daughter, who is also a widow. Right? Like, and remember, that was a Republican family.
yeah, white people.
Yeah. Yep. So, yeah, bro. It's pretty scary out there. Especially down south. You know? So it's
It seems quiet up here. I'm gonna look into that ICE stuff because that'll become a bigger story. If ICE is really gonna
yeah.
become a bigger presence in New York City,
That
I feel like
um
there's gonna be a lot of confrontations.
yeah. Yeah. Um I don't think New York is going to stand for it. I think they're going to Chicago this thing. Um and it could get really ugly. Because New Yorkers don't play that shit. They already saw what happened when they went to Brooklyn and tried to,
Yeah, and
ride on Haitian women.
Mandani just got sworn in, so he's, once again you have an ultra anti-ICE mayor like they did in Chicago as well.
Right, right. And I think that's the bottom line. You know, um, the leadership is not putting up with this crap, and whatever that was in the Oval between Mondani and Trump, that ain't gonna last.
Yeah,
That ain't gonna last.
there was no way that was gonna last.
Yeah, man.
Speaking of performances, Shador did okay again today. They won, beat Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
good
liking
numbers in the
Shador.
first half. Didn't do much in the second, but enough
Yeah,
to win.
now Did Garrett get a sack there? We need to find out if Miles got a sack because he would have broken the record today. All he needed was one sack.
No.
Sack record live updates. He must not have gotten it because that would have been the
No,
headline.
some other guy, Alex. Oh, wait, I'm looking on the wrong side. Miles Garrett did.
Nope.
Nope, just one quarterback hit.
Yeah, they chipped him all day long. So now it's going to go into the final week of the season. It looked like this thing was going to get obliterated. And because he had 22 and a half and they took a sack away from him, or a half a sack. And now he's got 22. And so it goes into the final week of the season.
What's the record?
22 and a half. He needs 23 to break the record. He needs a half to tie it. I think it's TJ Watt and Michael Strahan with 22 and a half.
Okay.
So that'll be interesting. So, yeah, we'll
All
see.
right. You can't, this thing, is it recording? I didn't see it upload yet.
No. I'm still getting the message to reconnect.
Oh.
So go,
It
so go
said-
ahead and leave.
Mine
Huh?
shows 99% uploading. In the little purple, I have a little purple thing in the upper right-hand corner.
Yeah. Yeah, you're good to go.
No, it's not 100 yet. I usually wait till.
Yeah, I can't get mine to shut down. Yep. Yep. No, mine is saying uploading. Uploading. Make
Does it,
sure
give you
we got-
does it give you a percentage?
Yeah, I can't see it because I got this message in the way.
I'm tired. I don't know why.
Where am I? Let me see. Let me make sure we got a connection here. My internet is trash. AT&T sucks.
Don't you do a lot of podcasts and videos?
Yeah,
You need a good one.
I know. I ordered another connector because usually I only have problems when everybody else is here on their phone and everything or watching TV. Let's see.